Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be cleaning up and making good a huge collection of Penguin Classics, Penguin Illustrated Classics and the Penguin English Library. So sit back, relax and let's get to it. Okay then, so I'm going to mix it up a little bit. We've got about 80 or 90 traditional Penguin Classics. We've got about a dozen illustrated classics and about the same amount of the New English Library. So quite a nice little batch, but I'll mix them up as we go along and well, we'll see how we fly. But hopefully they'll all be as easy as that, but I suspect they probably won't be. So I've been doing lots and lots of Penguin main series because I wanted to get the first 1,000 main series all cleaned up prior to the Penguin Collectors Show. That I've obviously done, and that's now in the rearview mirror. There we are. But after that, I've had lots of people message me because they've seen the last barn find video over on the main channel. They saw that I'd received quite a lot of Penguin Classics, and up until this point every spare Penguin Classic that I had actually sold. So, you know, I mean, not for a lot of money or anything, they don't go for a lot of money, but all my spares had been sold to other collectors, so I was very, very pleased to get some more. Now this one seems absolutely fine, except I need to re-glue the spine. It's a big old book, Crime and Punishment, isn't it? That's got a little mark on the bottom there. I'm just going to see if that's in pencil or if it's in pen. Yeah, it looks like that's in pen, sadly. But there's nothing stopping us putting some glue down there. Now, obviously it's the first time I've used the glue today. That's okay, it's coming out all right. But yeah, the other reason I wanted to get these Penguin Classics done is I have been promoting, I had it's like a sponsorship deal with something called the Map of Literature, where they've used me and some other YouTubers who do books to advertise their Map of Literature. And I did like a little short for them, like a YouTube, not a YouTube short, but like an Instagram reel. And I think they put them on TikTok and Facebook as well. And apparently my one's done pretty good. So they've come back and asked me to do quite a bit more, but specifically in the studio here to have plenty of Penguin Classics behind me. So that's what I'm doing. So I thought, well, all my Penguin Classics are actually all in storage at my friend's house. So I haven't got any on hand. So thankfully, I did have this little lot here. So I thought, well, I'll get these all cleaned up and I can use these as a backdrop and refer to some of the books that I mentioned on the map, which will be pretty cool, I thought. So obviously I've got lots of folio books as classics and I've got them still here in the house. But my Penguin Classics, which is what they've specifically asked for, well, none of that is nearby. So having these here now is dead handy, shall we say. Yeah, very, very cool. I'm sure this will be on the map. So yesterday, as we film this, I went to visit Dorset Bob in Dorset. Haha. And I met up with Steve, the outlaw bookseller, and I also met SF author and designer Ryan Hughes. That was a good fun time. I did actually buy a small pile of penguins, like a series of Penguin short stories. Bob had the first 12 there, and they were designed by Alan Aldridge, which was a bit of a surprise when I picked them up and had a look, you know. My collection of Penguin Classics, though, I am missing a fair old batch, so very pleased to get these, and hopefully there'll be some that I haven't got at all. Going swimmingly so far. Yeah, I'm confident that there'll be several that I've not got, and there'll be nice little additions, but there will also be a nice batch of spares, which hopefully I'll be able to give all the people who've messaged me at least something with regards to some of the books from the barn find. But I don't expect to do all of these today, but I'm going to try and do about half today and half tomorrow morning. Then I can merchandise the studio ready for filming. This one's got, this one looks like his ex-library. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, so that's a shame. It is an ex-library book. It's got a page out for starters. Got the stamps in, and it's got, that's the Dewey Decimal System on the side. That, unfortunately, because of the values, they're only worth a few pounds each anyway. That one, sadly, is going to have to be rejected. But that's the first one so far. And on the face of it, most of them look absolutely fine. This one seems like very, very nice. Doesn't look like it's even been read, that. Number 40. That looks perfect to me. Now, this is one of the later ones. You can see it's got a black spine. This one has got something on the front. I hate to say it, but it may actually be bird poo. These books did come from a barn, as we know, and I have seen some of the boxes have been marked with a bit of what I would only describe as bird poo, unfortunately. But this one, I mean, it's a first print. I don't think it's too outlandish. A little bit more on the front jacket there. So that one's got a bit of a laminated cover to it. So I'm going to put that on. We've got a few like that. I'm going to put that on a separate pile, and I'm going to give that one a polish, because we can actually get away with polishing the some of the later ones, and that will probably improve that no end. It's borderline, but I think it's just about survived the cut, shall we say. Here's another traditional black classic. This one much better. I have to admit, the classics that I've read, I don't tend to read like these sorts of classics, the really ancient classics. I prefer to read stuff from, say, the 18th and 19th century, which has now become classics. That to me is far more appealing. And what I've read, I've really enjoyed as well. The Bhagavad Gita. AP, somebody's initials, and 30p. Now I'm going to sort this this glue out, because we haven't used it for a bit, and it will just solidify on the top there. So I'll pop the lid back on. Eugenie Grandin. I like the little roundels on these ones on the Penguin Classics. They are really nice. The Penguin Collectors Society have done a special, as it were, like a one-off publication looking at the Penguin Classics. However, it's out of print, and I don't believe it had a massive run, maybe 600 or 700, possibly 750. So someone who's looking for classics said, "Oh, have you ever come across a spare?" And I haven't. The Penguin Collectors Society publications tend to obviously be bought by collectors, and for some reason, even though I bought some big collections lately, the collectors I've bought them from haven't actually been members of the society. Weirdly, they've collected, but they have been at some point, you know, for like a year or two, but they didn't keep the membership going for whatever reason. So consequently, I've not ended up with loads of spare Penguin Collectors Society publications. But if you're after any, and they've done loads, the society website is the place to head, and they've got them all at the original sort of cover prices, you know. Tacitus on Britain and Germany. (1948). That one's all right. I'm just having a closer look at the bottom of the spine here, although my screwdriver's got some dried up glue on it. we've been doing a lot of repairing lately of books, and I use this screwdriver to get into little fiddly places. It's just a traditional, miniature screwdriver that you'd use to put a plug on or something, but it's quite handy to get into little areas like that. So you can see there is a tiny bit of wear there. Not wear, but it's just coming away just a touch. And I'd like to get a little bit of glue in there. Just so that doesn't get any worse. There we are. That's fine. So far we've only had the one that we've had to put to one side. And now that's got some very, very neat writing in the back, which I'll probably leave there. Yeah. I shall leave that exactly as is, that bit of writing. Someone's made a few notes and they've gone through. The 12 Caesars. This is translated by Robert Graves. This one is slightly cocked. It's like, may have got a water ripple of some sort. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's been ever read properly. Yeah, I suspect that one's picked up some sort of moisture in its life, maybe, and it's caused it to sort of be a bit, you see how it's not very flexible, it's not very supple, but it's actually not a bad copy. Right, the Charterhouse of Parma. It's got a bit of a stain on the front, which is a shame. I can see why the classics are collected, often by people who, beyond the realm of just regular penguin collectors. Lots of people like the classics because they did choose some fantastic books. This one's a little bit dusty. They're all going to benefit from a good brush. Unfortunately, the weather today is appalling. We are very much moving into winter weather now, and it's not great. Not a great time of year for it. Now, this is coming away at the top, so we're going to need to reglue that. I believe this one got published as an Alan Lane Christmas book. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've got it. Signed by Robert Graves in an edition of, I think, 2000, so it was a big run. There we are. Yeah, that's Lives to Fight Another Day. This is nice. This is Les Miserables Part 2. And that one, look at that. That's a beautiful spine on it. So obviously it's a later one. It's got an ISBN on it. So I'm not sure if this is the first time this was done or not. I honestly don't know. Yeah, published in Penguin 1980. So there you go. It's a very, very late classic. But it is indeed a classic. So that's fine. And I say 1980. I mean, it's a mere 45 years old, this one. But yeah, beautiful condition. Beautiful. Definitely not one I've got. I'm sure I haven't got that one. A little run of ISBN ones now. Alarcon, the Three-Cornered Hat, other stories. This is ISBN, but it's also got the number L314 on the spine, which would have been its Penguin series number. £25p seems very good. That's fine, very nice copy of that one. The extra book of riddles. 1979, this one. Yeah, he's alright, quite a thin little volume. And the Folio Society did an edition of that one. Madame de Lafayette, the Princess de Cleves. Hmm. 1978. So it says revised edition published in Penguin Books 1962, reprinted in Penguin Classics. So I wonder if that came out as a main series book. I honestly don't know, but I believe this is the first time as a classic, so that's fine. I said all these ones with the black covers we'll be able to give a polish to. This is a Penguin Modern Classic, but I've included it. I do pick up the Penguin Modern Classics. Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. They're just beautiful. When does this date from? 79 again. That's beautiful. Yeah, very nice. I've done a video on my main channel on Penguin Modern Classics, although I've got two cracking revised editions of that to come. One on the Penguin Science Fiction and the other one on Penguin Modern Classics. This is L299, but it's a later ISBN number or ISBN release. £1975, that one. Little 45p in there. Okay, so that's that first pile of Penguin Classics. Now the next thing we're going to do is I've got a stack of Penguin Illustrated Classics. Now we have seen these on the channel before. Some of them came in, well, they all came in wrappers originally at one point, but not all of them have still got their wrappers. And I haven't got the full set, sadly. There's 10 released, C1 to C10, and I've got a selection, but I haven't got them all. And a bit of a shame, because the last lot I had was missing just one book, which was Gulliver's Travels. And I was amazed to see that there wasn't a copy of Gulliver's Travels in this one for the friend who bought the rest of them. So there we are. That's by Herman Melville, who wrote Moby Dick. TP, wood engravings by Robert Gibbons, who I also really like. That's a great book. This is not a particularly nice, tip-top copy of it, and it's got no wrapper on it, but ultimately it's okay. So I'm going to start a new pile there. This one is in a dust wrapper. So when they're out of their wrappers, they are, of course, vastly improved, like that one. Yeah, as I recall, I think Robert Gibbons was the overall series editor of these. I'm trying to remember now. Robert Browning, look at that. That's gorgeous, isn't it? Very, very nice. Art editor was Robert Gibbons. Yeah. And G.B. Harrison. Yes. But yeah, for some reason, this series of illustrated classics never went beyond number 10. I always thought that number 1, which I believe is Pride and Prejudice, is the hard one. It was certainly the last one I had to get, and it took me a while to get it. But evidently, Gulliver's Travels is also quite scarce. So that's nice. I am going to put this back in its wrapper. The wrapper's not great, but I think it is worth keeping it together on this, There we are. Yeah, not too bad. All right. Robinson Crusoe. Now this one is in a wrapper, but the wrapper I would say is a little bit more questionable. Oh, I suppose he's just about there. It's not great, but none of these ever are, in all honesty. They're just not. It is a tough series to pick up in tip-top shape. Oh, look at these. This one's not even been read properly. Yeah, well, we won't play around with that, but it is what it is. Robinson Crusoe Part 2. Here's Crusoe Part 1. I don't know if that's pencil on the front or what. And the answer is it's not. It's just, I don't know, some form of dirt. It is a little grubby. But as I said, these don't go for a lot of money, so I won't be charging the earth for them. Right, number 4, Walden. This one's alright. So again, it would have had a wrapper. Oh dear, look, someone's done a little drawing in the back. Let's see if there's any other graffiti. Pooh, July 1938. Let's get this out first, and then we'll see if we can get that picture out the back, because it isn't exactly a masterpiece, and it does detract from the book. And we don't want that, do we? Well, that was some really heavy datage in there. Let's hope this comes off a little bit easier. It's coming off, but not very well. I think it was done quite... they pressed quite hard on the page. So that's obviously taken away the initial bit, but we'll do it another shake and see if it improves second time round. There we are. Okay, that's as good as we're going to get that one. Right, Story of My Heart, Richard Jefferies. This one's in a wrapper again. Gertrude Hermes did the wood engravings. It's got a little pound on it. There we are. Yeah, worth keeping that one in the wrapper, even though the wrapper is not great. This one's, on the face of it, slightly better in a wrapper. Wrapper's got some... It's got like that one we felt it before, like just sort of like grit on the front. Really don't know what causes it, but it tends to just come off with a rub of your fingernail across it. You know, that's almost got it all now. Okay. Underneath, very bright and sharp. It's just gorgeous, aren't they? It's got 5p. Yeah, I was gutted for my friend that I couldn't find him a copy of Gulliver's Travels to finish his set of those. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. There just wasn't a copy in the collection. It was as simple as that. Now the first 10, it was Pride and Prejudice, yeah. So it's number 1 and, well, number 10 by the looks of it. A.W. Childs Limited. It's got a little stamp in it. 40p. There we are. 3 more of these to go. There's another copy of this one. No wrapper on this one. Oh, a wrapper flap, but no point keeping that one. So it's interesting to note that these were published before the regular Penguin Classics got off the ground. These were the very, very first classics that Penguin ever printed, in fact. This one's the same book, but it's much more worn. And since we've already got, what's this, LOPC? £4. Absolutely not. And then we've got yet another copy here, which is a nice bright copy. So this is probably the best one of all we've seen today. And this is the final illustrated classic. There we are. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's a nice copy of that one. So there we are. So that's the first stack of 3 original classics. And that's all the illustrated classics. So we've got 2 more piles of regular classics. And we've got the Penguin English Library to do. But that's the first little section done. All right, so we'll do another little stack. And then we'll be about halfway or just over halfway, which will be fine for today. Then I can finish this in the morning. And this is the Travels of Marco Polo, another very, very cool one. Another one which was also published by the Folio Society. And there are a few connections to the Folio Society and Penguin. And it's something that I do intend sort of investigating eventually. But yeah, that's okay. I'm going to start a second pile over there for these. Homer's Iliad, another one which is a folio stalwart. A couple of turned over corners, but nothing too serious. There we are, number 14. Yep, 1950. Now, it has got a little bit of the bottom of the spine coming away, so it looks like it's going to be a 2-ply effort as well. So we'll just do the initial bit. Then as you can see, if I get my screwdriver here, it's like a second ply. So we need to get a bit in there as well. Probably overcooked it, which is what I usually do. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. Don't forget this glue does dry clear, so that's not too bad. I think that's all right. An odd black spined one, the three-cornered hat and other stories. (1975). Lovely. Right, that's a nice copy of number 90, and I suspect this is one I haven't got. Don't recognise it. A little bit of foxing. Nothing too serious, mind you. Yeah, that's all right. Dead Souls. Look at that. Good old Dead Souls. And I think the way that the classics are split, the different colours represents the country of origin. So the red ones, I believe, are Russian literature. 1961. That's very nice. Faust. This one's got 40p on the front. And it's got the 1 and 6 scrubbed out, so we'll try and do that as well. Yeah, that's okay. It's actually in a dust wrapper. Look at that. Well, I never. Some of the early ones were in wrappers. In 1949. So that actually is pretty tasty, that, with a wrapper. Right, this one's a little bit the worse for wear. It looks as if the cover's come completely off, and it has. Let's see if it can be saved. Well, I think it's just about all there, you know. So I think it's probably worth us having a little go. We've not had to do any extensive repairs on these classics. They're either worth it or they're not, really. Yeah, I think we can probably glue that back down. I'm not sure about this bit here. Glue's playing hard to get now. Okay. Now that's going to need to be stuck onto the book before we can do it, but it's multi-ply again. and maybe the same at the top. So let's pop the cover up there. Now the book itself, a little bit of debris on it, but it's not too bad. Have a look. So we're going to be quite generous, we're going to whack quite a bit on here. Because it's a big thick book. There we are. And before I stick it on, I am going to put some tactical glue on here as well, near the ends. Right. Okay. Now the trick is to try not to get glue everywhere. I suppose the bigger the book, the more at risk it is of like falling to bits once it's been read a couple of times, which is a shame because Penguins never used to be like that. But certain ones just seem to be a bit more susceptible to damage than others, really. Right. Now let's get this multi-layered stuff in. So we've got a little dab in there, and then we're going to put a dab in there. And pretty much the same thing on this side, underneath, and then on that bit. So it's catching it on both levels. And that, believe it or not, still needs a bit more glue in it. Hopefully that's going to do the trick. We'll just stay there for about an hour. Not really. There we are. So I think we've done a reasonable job of re-gluing that, to be honest. Obviously not great, but it's better than it was, which was a coverless book. And we'll leave that overnight to set. And we've got 4 more here to do before I call it for today. Obviously I still need to give these all a brush tomorrow as well. You never know, there may be some better weather tomorrow. That's okay. And we can do it outside because some of these are pretty grim, aren't they? There's Candide. This is a multiple reprint, so just a reprint of number 4. Check off 3 plays. Yep, so that Voltaire's Candide was the only one we've actually come across which was a reprint. All the rest of them have been firsts, and here is Dangerous Liaisons. It's got 2 shillings on the front in pencil, and it hasn't really come off very well. It's fading slowly. There we are. There we are. Yeah, a little bit of glue just in there. Yeah, look, one section of it's almost come away. So with a bit of luck, we can save that. Once again, I'll put generous wedge of glue in, and we'll see what it's like in the morning. See if it's managed to bind it together. Because it is the original one. It's not perfect, but it is the original one. So if we can save it, we will. But it'll just be cheap and cheerful. It might be good enough as a filler for somebody. There we are. Right, so I'm going to call it there for today, and I think we've done maybe just under half. So not too bad at all. We've definitely done half of those, and we've got the pile of New English, or the Penguin English Library still to do. Cool. Okay then, so it's the next morning, and we're going to crack on with finishing off these classics now. And this one is actually in a wrapper, Madame Bovary, but the wrapper is, well, he's very, very fragile indeed, sadly, virtually hanging off. So I think that's pretty much on its last legs, sadly. However, the book itself isn't too bad by the look of it, on the face of it. So let's get this one analysed, and it's all right. No actual markings or pencil marks or anything like that in it, so that's a better way of having it rather than in the wrapper. Now this one's in a wrapper, number 6, but the wrapper is much better condition, so it's intact for starters. There's a little bit of wear at the top and bottom of the spine. It's got a little 38 on here, which is in pencil, so that's not difficult to get off. The rest of the wrapper is okay but they're very, very thin, these wrappers. And look at that, translated by Dorothy L. Sayers. Now, how's the book itself? Pretty nice, to be honest. I wonder if it's actually a first print. 50p. Yeah, first published 1949. So that's a particularly nice one. Yeah, can't complain at that. Now, the weather today is actually a little bit less wet and windy than yesterday. However, I'm still undecided about whether I can do any of the brushing outside or if I need to be doing it in here, in all honesty. So we'll get to the end of the video and I'll make a judgment call, I think, about whether we can do it outside or not. I'd rather do it outside, of course, because I don't want to fill the studio up with dust, if I can help it. Plus, it's a lot better for my health. Okay, that's cool. So I'll keep that one in its wrapper because it's a good one. Yet another copy of this. Must be the third copy of this. Yeah, just looking back over what we've done, this is actually the third copy of this book, if you can believe it. It's a first print. It's the classic number 2. There we are. Just a little bit of the corners needed turning over. Right, the Persian Expedition. Number 7. Yeah, it seems the early ones are quite well represented in this little collection. more so than the later ones. And I've got to say, it is the later ones that I'm more short of myself rather than the earlier ones. Homer's Iliad, number 14. Pretty dusty, this one. But, you know, a sound copy, shall we say, you know. Yeah, 1950. Yeah, a little bit of aging, I suppose, is the best way to call it. But it's a copy, and it's complete, and it's a first. Bit of a scribbling inside, but still quite acceptable. Okay. Got 150 on the front there. £1. Is that £1.50? Surely not. That seems a bit much for this one. It is another reasonably early one. Yeah, number 5. That's it. And this is the second copy of this one that we've actually had, so it's pretty good. Okay. The Imitation of Christ. This is number 27. So it's in better shape. Yeah, that's a pretty tidy copy of that one. Plato, The Last Days of Socrates. Number 17. Oh, that's slightly misprinted there, but it's not the end of the world. We get that with these books. It's okay. Now a later black one, but this one's quite worn in comparison to some of the other ones. It's still alright, but it's just not tip-top. 1969. Yeah, look at this. It's got the writing inside and the name. Yeah, I'm going to put that on the... I'm going to consider it pile. I'm not going to have low-grade stuff. This is number 80. Domestic Peace and Other Stories. It's just not worth carrying around books that are low grade. They're just not really worth any money, and collectors don't particularly want them. Even if they are old, it really doesn't matter. The only sort of lower grade stuff I hold on to is the rare crime books. The more run-of-the-mill crime books, even those, I'm not throwing them away, but they are going to one side to be done sort of as a job lot. That's okay, but it's got a little bit of water damage, which is a bit of a shame. St. John of the Cross, Classic 101. Okay, and then the last one of this pile, before we start on the Penguin English Library, is Confessions of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Now, it's in a dust wrapper, which I think we might be able to save with a bit of luck. It's not perfect, it's got some chips and stuff, but we'll get it off and see what it looks like underneath. Yes, it's highly chipped, sadly. So it's not in the greatest of shapes. As you can see, we've seen worse, but we've also seen better. That bit's virtually fallen off here. Yeah, that bit's gone. There's nothing we could do with that. It's hanging on by a thread. But there we are. So, I mean, I think if I was to leave that on the book, it's just going to get more damaged. So I am, of course, going to save that dust wrapper, because I try and save them if they're not, horrific, just not perfect. So I will save that dust wrapper, but the book itself is going to be better off as a standalone on its own, basically, without the dust wrapper present. Got some page edge foxing, quite severe. But apart from that, he's all right. Now, what's happening at the top here? Yeah, so we need a tiny little bit of glue just to sort that little edge out. So, first bit needs to go on there. So, let's see, is it going to come out smoothly? Yeah, so we just need that bit on there first of all. Let's get these a little bit closer so I can see the action. And then hopefully we can pull that other strand across. Like so. There we are. We'll just have to leave that as is, but at least it's sort of saved it a little bit. Right, that's good. So the next thing we're going to do, we've got a pile of a dozen or so New English Library. Now these, once again, are slightly in varying conditions. This is a separate sub-series. These are books that in a lot of cases went on to be regular classics. So the Penguin English Library, they went on to become regular classics, but this was how they were released initially. Not quite sure why. The series didn't last forever. So it started late 60s and went into the early 80s, I believe. Yeah, this one's 1966, and this is number 17 in the series. So as I said, we've got at least a dozen to go through. So apart from that, at the start there, that's absolutely fine. Now, these ones here can also have a polish. So I'm going to put them in with the black classics, that pile, because we can give these a polish. This is number 18. There's a fair few of these I've not got, and I did get quite a batch last year, and I was really pleased to get them, but there was quite a few holes in my collection, so I'm guessing there'll be a few new ones here for me. That's pretty nice to get going on, which will be good. This is number 21. This has got some spine creases, but still okay, I think. You just have to be reasonably cheap and cheerful. Yeah, that's okay. Just survives the cut. This is number 4, Pilgrim's Progress. £30p. There we are. Yep, 1965, that's all right. The House of Seven Gables. This is a later one. It's actually got an ISBN. (1981), this one. The Penguin American Library. Yeah, so this is separate. Look, this is the Penguin American Library, not the Penguin English Library. So it's like a little sub-series. Journal of the Plague Year. English Library 15. Very, very nice. I've got a very nice folio society edition of this one. There's a name there. It's quite faint in pen, but it is there. And these books will clean up really nicely with a bit of polish, so I'm not too worried about them being a little bit mottled on the covers, because they'll be okay. The Moonstone, number 14. English Library 14. This one's a little bit worn. Absolute classic book. A few turned over corners on these. Not many, but a few. Almost there. There we are. Thankfully they were pretty, like, easy folds, as it were, you know, so there we are. So it's not the greatest copy, but it is, you know, it is okay. Just in time we've given it a brush and a polish, it should just about survive. The spine is pretty awful though, I've got to say, so I'll be knocking that out cheap. Let's get the rest of these. Homer Grasmere. This is another later one. It's ISBN. (1978). It's a shame there wasn't another copy of my favourite, which is Moby Dick. I'm after a really nice copy of it, but not in this collection, sadly. Pilgrim's Progress. That's absolutely beautiful, that one. That's a real nice copy. Yeah, that's virtually mint there. That's a real good one. This is a little bit more worn on the spine there. So that's English Library 33. Okay. Natural History of Selborne. This is another later one. 1977, that one. It's okay. Christmas Books, Volume 2. I have got some of these ISBN ones because they are so nice. It's a really, really nice series to collect these. In a lot of cases, this was the first time some of these Dickens books have been put into Penguin editions, and they've probably never been out of print since, in all honesty, you know. Trollope, North America. This one's a bit worn on the spine as well. There we are. Northanger Abbey, Jane Austen. Another one, not a lot we can do with that. A couple more here. Humphrey Clinker, number 21. This one's another one that's a little bit worn and red, but just about survives the cut. And then the last one we got is Mystery of Edwin Drood, one of my favourite Dickens books. Not my favourite, that's David Copperfield, but I do like Edwin Drood. It's one of his later ones. There we are, 1974. So that is all the Penguin English Library. Now, what we've got next is another big pile of traditional classics. One of them, however, is a black classic, which is this one here. The rest of them are the old style classics. So if we do this one black classic, which is Ibsen, then we know that everything that we've just done, all that pile basically is ready for polishing, because that's what they're going to need. They're going to need a good polish. But we do that after we've done the brushing. Right, so that's all the books that are going to need polishing, so put them in a big pile there. Then we'll crack on with some more traditional classics. Let's make myself a bit of room here on the desk. These traditional classics can go up there, because these are all going to need brushing, but we've got another big old stack of them to get through, which is good news for us. So, number 44. Oh, that's got a bit of paper inside. We'll look at that in a moment. (1954). That's fine. It's just a little scrap. Someone's obviously used that as a bookmark of some sort. Plato, the Symposium. This is number 24, a thin little volume. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Scarlet and Black, number 30, Stendhal. (1953). Big 50p on there. There we are. So once again, not great, but just about survives the cut. Miss Harriet and Other Stories. Someone's name on the front here. He's a bit foxed, this one. Bit foxed and aged. So not perfect, sadly. But it is a copy. It's got a little bit of binding come away at the bottom there, which I'm just going to get with my knife. Yeah, so not perfect. Very, very foxed, in fact. But, oh, and it's a reprint. It's not actually a first. So I think that's too far gone. He's going to have to go into the charity shop pile. This is copy number 1. First print. There we are. Tiny nick at the bottom of the spine, but nothing. I don't think there's anything we can do with that. Yeah, it's just sort of come away. We're probably better off just having it off there. There we are. Okay. Right. The Conquest of Gaul. Caesar. Yeah, that's nice. Don Quixote, number 10. Huge book, this one. Almost 900 pages. Yeah, a little bit grubby, but needs a really, really good brush, that one. And that should revive it. Right. Old Goriot. So much interest in these old Penguin classics. I mean, I can't tell you how many emails I've had with people looking for them. It's just been incredible, really. There's just something about them. To buy these brand new is also really expensive. So I think that's also the attraction, to buy these original ones, because in a lot of cases the translations are often the same. Not always. Sometimes they get updated, but often they're the same. And it's just a cheaper way to read the classics, really, in a nice vintage edition, you know. So I can certainly understand the attraction. No, I don't recognise this one. This might be a new one for me. Najal's Saga. The Theban Plays. Sophocles. Number 3. Yeah, I thought there was a little something in there. Look, it's a little bus. London Transport Buses, Route 233. 1.5p, governor. It went via Finsbury Park. The stuff you find in old books, eh? Bellamy. It's a nice copy of that one. Once again, this one had a beautiful folio edition. 1961. Just a couple of little turned over corners, nothing much. Apart from that, that's a beauty, that one. That was really nice. Nice and white. Lucian's Satirical Sketches. Ugh. Got a dead insect on the back. This is one of those ones. I'm just going to whack the camera. I'm just going to double check this because it's got a glossy cover. Check it isn't actually the first. It might be. At least I'm sure it is. Yeah. 1961. But the cover is glossy, which is weird. I don't remember them being like that, but I'm going to stick it on the pile which we're going to polish, because that one can have a polish. All right, we're going to take a little break in a minute because we've been filming for about half an hour, and I usually film for half an hour, then I let the camera cool down for a little bit while I do some other bits, and then I'll be back to finish off. I can sort of hear the wind in the background, and I think it's probably going to be a little bit too windy and horrible and wet and rainy to do outside, but I am going to do a weather check as well in a sec, just to see if it's going to be possible to do the brushing outside, because there's quite a bit to brush, and these do need a decent brush. They do need to be thoroughly brushed. Now this one's actually coming away. Of course, the glue's dried up. Come on, come on. No, it's decided to completely dry up on me, so I blame me not putting the lid back on. Here we go. That should do the trick. So when we come back in a minute, we've got another dozen or so of these pure classics to do, and then we need to do the brushing, and we've got some polishing, so still a fair way to go on this particular batch of classics. So I've had a bit of a weather check, and it is a bit wet and windy out there. I don't think it's really the best sort of environment to go outside and do some brushing, so I think today we're going to have to do it in here, much as I don't really want to. I just don't think there's any other way around it. I suppose I could do it with the door open and not actually step outside. I'll see how much dirt they actually kick out, but if they're really bad, I don't know. I'll do these first, and then we'll have one last check and see if it's a possibility or not. That was a nice copy. So Gowan and the Green Knight. Now, is that pencil on the front? It is. So in a weird sort of pattern. I think someone may have been doodling on that one. So my personal Penguin Classics collection is not stored in the house with me. It's not with my main Penguin collection. It's actually stored off-site at a friend's house. I've had to start storing books off-site because I don't have room until I move house. And my Penguin Classics are in 3 of my comic boxes, and my New English Library and Illustrated Classics are in another couple of boxes. So I've messaged my friend to see if I can go around in the next, or maybe even today, but if not early next week, and take these with me now that they've all been cleaned up, so I can do a bit of a comparison job. Once that's done, then I'll be in a position to move on my spares. So I don't want to get rid of any of these new acquisitions until I've been through and checked them out myself, So this is an early one, but it's heavily reprinted. In fact, look, it's a 95-cent one. So this is actually one that went out to the States by the look of it. It could have been Australia, I suppose, or New Zealand, but yeah, it's a cents version. So that's a bit of a variant and a reprint. So a bit of a weird one. Right, what's this? 50p. There we are, that's pretty nice, isn't it? Once again, not one I recognise off the top of my head. The Life of Saint Teresa, number 73. A little bit tanned, this one. But I'm certain that there's a few books here that are not in my current collection, because I do have quite a few gaps in the Penguin Classics, so I'm really, really pleased to be able to fill in some holes. They just, I've not really tried to chase them down, but it's quite tough trying to find them, and you don't want to be picking them off one by one off eBay. It's just too expensive. This is another one with a little bit of the binding coming away. Gotta say, my craft knife is not as sharp as it was. I think I do need to get a new one. They're really cheap, but I've had that one for a couple of years on the same blade, So that's okay. It's not Not great, unfortunately, with that big sort of stain on the front. Someone's coffee is what it looks like to me. This one's got a faded spine. Piers the Ploughman. Not heard of this one. Got some page age browning and aging. Apart from that, he's okay. And this is number 12. It's in a wrapper again, which is always good. So how's the wrapper looking? Pretty nice. That's pretty good. Underneath, of course, lovely. The wrapper has done its job and protected the book. First from 1949. Got on 30p in it. That's a nice copy of that one. And yeah, scarce with the wrapper. Essays. Unusual, but it's got an A48 at the back. You've got to wonder where all these sort of numbers come from, you know. Are they from libraries or what, you know? There's still a little bit of it left. $1958. That's a pretty nice copy of that one. A couple more to go. Yet another copy of number 1, if you can believe it. Seen a few copies of this, haven't we? Is it 1945? Oh, that's a reprint. 1946. So this is actually a reprint of number 1. Still alright though. As I said, with these, I think people aren't too worried about the reprints, as long as they're nice condition and not overly priced. So something like that, in that condition, which is pretty nice, even though it's like the first reprint, I'll still probably put like £2-3 on that one, because I think it's still a nice one to have. And the very last one is yet another copy of this, once again in a wrapper, but the wrapper is a little bit more worn, much more brittle, and the first flap is virtually falling off. But the book itself, well, let's see. The book is fine. I think the wrapper is just about going to hold out. It's very faded, but it's good enough to keep. Just. Definitely not perfect. You can see all the chipping and that, but it's better than not having a wrapper at all. Right, I'm going to do one last check on the weather to see if we can do the brushing by the door. If not, I'm going to have to do it right here. Okay, so amazingly, there's a gap in the weather, so I'm going to make the most of it and attempt to do these outside, or at least in the doorway. So I'm moving over them swiftly, because at the moment the weather is insanely showery. So we'll do them as we come across. They're not in any particular order, except the piles that I'm going to be polishing. So that's good news. But apart from it being really windy, we're okay. We're okay. So some of these classics were really rough and very, very dusty. And I just don't want to be brushing all that dust into this room, because it's too small. A, it's going to go over all the other books, and B, it's just going to hang around in the atmosphere, which is not great when you're in here breathing it. So that's all that we've got to do. So quite a bit, isn't it? let's do these illustrated classics. We'll do them in 2 hits. And I just stay in the doorway here. They're not actually too bad. But as with all these things, it's often a case of some are worse than others. But as long as we got the bulk of it, the dust off and the spider webs and what have you, we should be okay. So that's all of the illustrated classics. These are the books that we're going to be polishing. This is Penguin English Library and the Odd Classic. And I think by having these polished as well, they'll really finish these off quite nicely. Cool, I just had a little blowback of dust come into my face. Less yap and more action is what my dad would say. Unfortunately, we got the Sons of Anarchy setting off across the road. It's funny, now that they're out here, they don't seem as bad, you know? It's weird, but I know that they are bad because we've had a look at them, haven't we? Of course, these ones are 60s that we're doing here, whereas the original classics are much older, so they've had more chance to pick up dirt and dust. With these, in a lot of cases, we're just taking off, you know, cobwebs and little bits and pieces like that, you know? But it does make a difference. Right. So that's all the New English Libraries and Illustrated Classics. Now we're going to start on the vintage classics. And these were definitely worse. And some of them were quite a bit worse. Oh, little bee getting on my shirt. How dare it? You may remember in one of my older videos from last year, there was a bush just to the left of the studio, which some bees decided to set up camp in. And that's fine, I didn't disturb them or anything, but they've not come back this year. And they tried it for 2 years on the trot and they just didn't survive. And I think it's just the temperatures or something like that. Something happened which they just didn't survive the summer very well. Some spider webs on here. So once we've finally done this, we can do the polishing. So my friend's replied since I last texted him, and he is working today, sadly, but he might be finishing early, in which case I can nip round there tonight, because it'll only take about half an hour to you know, I've got like a box and a bit to go through. But if else, I'm going to be doing it early next week, which is absolutely fine with me. Yeah, I wouldn't say these were massively dusty. It's more like storage dust, if that makes sense. You know, like, not fluff, but like, I think it is old spider webs and things like that. We know now that this collection was stored for 20 years, basically. It was purchased between 1985 and 2005, and then in 2005 the collection was all boxed up when the last owner moved house, and that's how they've remained basically for another 20 years until I picked them up recently in the last few months. So that's their history. So they do have storageware. There is no way around that. That is part of their story. So that's why they were stored in a barn. So that's why some of them have got wear and what have you, and foxing. But that's just how it is. And the last couple, right, so that's all the brushing done. That wasn't too bad, and we're doing it just in the doorway here. It's not too windy. Right, next stop then is we got to get some polishing done. Well, I can't remember the last time we had to do some polishing, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. And well, we'll see how we get on. Some of these are worse than others, but really in a lot of cases we're just getting rid of some of like the cover, not mildew, but just cover marks, just to tidy them up a little bit. And I just use Mr. Sheen furniture polish, which seems to do the trick for me. And it really will be quite noticeable on some of these books for sure. It'll really give them a good holiday, shall we say. And I've often found that the amount of dirt that comes off these is really like mind-blowing. Really, really quite a surprise, you know. You just don't realise it. Look at that, we've only done 3 books. But sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles, and we've got to knuckle down. But it does generally make quite the difference. And I know some of these books are going to be heading to my own personal collection. I want them looking as good as possible. Even if it means another level of, you know, an extra bit of work just to get them looking sharp, you know. That's the price we pay as being book collectors. We want the best. All the best that we can find. As I said, these books weren't really stored in the best environment, you know, in boxes in a barn, and a barn that at one point flooded as well about 5 years ago. The books weren't affected directly by the water, but there was a lot of moisture in the barn until the water subsided, and that would have just hung around. And that would have seeped into the books. So since I've had the books back here, not that they're damp in any way, but I have had my dehumidifier on. Also because it's that time of year when if I come out here in the cold morning and I've not had any, you know, I've not had the dehumidifier on, and the environment can be a bit like damp, and I just don't want that. I've got paper products in here, so it needs to be bone dry. Now the studio itself is super insulated. I've got insulation on every single surface, basically the floor, the ceiling, and all the walls. So although the basic structure is a shed, you know, it's just a shed that you'd have in your back garden. It's you know, fully insulated, sealed up, and also I've then got all my soundproofing on top of all that as well. So it is, genuinely speaking, a very dry environment, but I just don't want to take the chances. And my dehumidifier, you know, I do need to empty it about once a week, so it does fill up overnight. You know, when I'm in here filming, it's not on, but when I'm not, I leave the dehumidifier on, and it does fill the entire like reservoir in about a week. It can fill up. So for that reason alone, you know, it's worth doing. You know, it is outside. You know, it is in the garden, so it's going to suffer a bit like if you've got stuff in the garage. You know, which I wouldn't recommend unless you've got them in the right. In a bit like me, so they're in a good environment which you're keeping an eye on. It's temperature controlled in a way. I mean, this isn't temperature controlled, but I do keep an eye on it so it doesn't get too cold and moisture form. Else I'll have to go the route of Dorset Bob and have everything bagged up, and I just don't have time to do that, of course. But I've never had any problems since I've had books here in the studio at all, and nothing's here long term. It's only here temporarily while it gets processed, cleaned, and then eventually sold. And the stuff, I do keep my stock here in the studio, but that stuff is it's all boxed up separately. All the rare stuff is bagged anyway, so it's not going to be affected by the environment that it's stored in. But yeah, these are definitely improving as we go through them. And some are better than others. But yeah, it's going to prove a bit of a longer video, this one, you know, but that's why I started it yesterday, because I guessed we had quite a bit of work involved in these. And as I said, the reason I'm not caning it, but I am trying to, you know, I did want these all done and dusted today, was because I've just had so many people looking to who are looking for classics. So as I said, I couldn't let any of them go until I've at least checked them against my own collection, and hopefully I'll get that done in the next day or two, and then I can get all the spares sort of priced up, ready for anyone who might be interested. Not just that, of course, as I said, I think at the start, I also need these classics as a backdrop for an advert I'm filming, so I need to get them out for that as well. So, looking ahead, we've got some more Penguin crime books, and we've got obviously more books from the Barn Find. With regards non-main series books, I've got, obviously we've done the classics now, we've done the Albatross. I've got an awful lot of puffin to do, and that's not going to be one video by any means, that's going to be a series. That'll probably be 3 or 4 videos to do all the puffin books. I'll split them into puffins, peacocks, puffin picture books, you know, different sub-series, and do it that way. Penguin handbooks, and also Penguin reference, plays. We've got a pile of foreign books that need to be gone through, foreign language. We got Penguin new writings. We've got a load of Penguin periodicals, Penguin specials, and of course Pelican books. I've got a mountain of them here. Oh, and Penguin Shakespeare and education. So that is a lot still to get through over the next few months, and I'll mix up the other series with main series so it doesn't get a bit samey. But that's what we got ahead of us. Just to let you know, look at the muck we've got off it so far. Use another bit of fresh bit of cloth. So don't forget, if you've enjoyed today's video, do please give me the thumbs up. Well, not me, personally, just give the video a thumbs up. Let the algorithm know you've enjoyed it. And potentially then it'll offer you my next one. There's a bit of controversy, I suppose, at the moment where people's videos aren't getting recommended, and I think there's been some sort of change in the algorithm, so I guess we'll see what the fallout is from that. I mean, I've not noticed anything per se, but some of the big channels that I follow have. I don't know, I think, you know, it is what it is ultimately, you know, but yeah, by subscribing it does make a difference. So if you can just hit that button, it's completely free, but at least it'll keep these videos coming. I've got to admit, at one point I was thinking I'm running out of stuff to clean in my own collection, but since I've moved into the realms of dealing a bit more nowadays in books, I've always got sort of stock that needs attention, and I haven't forgotten, but I do need to keep bagging up my collection as well, bagging up my books, and I've got an awful lot of that still to do, and I'll get there eventually. It's you know, I don't want to just rush through. I want to enjoy the process, basically, and that's we mustn't lose sight of that, because that it can become. I don't want this to become a chore. You know what I mean? It's my hobby, and one that I really enjoy doing. But at the same time, you know, it is sometimes it can be a bit much when all the messages and emails coming in with people after stuff. And I can understand then why some dealers just say, well, look, you know, I'll do a catalogue and I'll release it at, you know, on this date, and then it's first come, first serve. There's a lot to be said for that, because else you're constantly getting dribs and drabs of people, you know, messaging you, and you never get a break from it. You know what I mean? So it just requires a lot more work to get everything catalogued, you know. So anyway, it is what it is. And we'll deal with it as best we can. Right, last one. So thanks very much for watching today. Do give the video that thumbs up. Do hit the subscribe button if you've not already. and I'll see you again in 7 days with another cleaning video. Bye.